Welcome to another episode of Horror Face Off. It's actually the last episode in this series, and then we'll go from here. We'll see what happens. And today the combatants are modern-ish in comparison to some of the other matchups we've had. We have Final Destination, released in 2000, versus Wrong Turn, released in 2003. And I realize I'm saying modern, and they're like 20 plus years old. So, yeah. And we've got a very, very colorful panel and personality and hair. And we're going to start with Catherine. How's it going?
Hi.
We didn't scare you. You're back.
I'm back.
Awesome. And Mia, how you doing, Mia?
I'm doing great. I'm just munching on some snacks and very excited to talk about these movies.
Awesome. Okay, great. So you're both veterans, so I don't have to go over anything. Hey, you do one show and you're a veteran. We're gonna get right into it. We're gonna start off with plot, and I'm gonna throw to Catherine.
Plot. Wrong Turn's great because I mean the premise of just, he's in the very beginning of the movie, he has to take a detour to get somewhere on time, and he takes a wrong turn and ends up in the middle of nowhere, just ravaged by these cannibals. That plot, I like it, but Final Destination I feel like is so unique. Like when it came out, I can't think of any other movie that's similar or just like Final Destination. So I'm going to give it to Final Destination just for its creativity.
Cool. Mia?
I feel the same way. Wrong Turn to me is very like The Hills Have Eyes. And so it feels like it's different, but it does feel, I guess, like we've seen something similar before. And Final Destination, it like reinvented like a thriller slasher. The rules were totally different. And because of that, I'm going with Final Destination too.
All right. And it's funny you mentioned The Hills Have Eyes, because one of the ideas for matchups was Wrong Turn versus The Hills Have Eyes, but it was very similar, right? So sometimes I go similar, sometimes I try to stay away from that. Of course, you have like an older film and a newer film. I could have gone with that angle, but there might be more shows down the road. Yeah, Final Destination was, it was at I wouldn't say at the end. I think it was right in the heart of that resurgence in teen horror films with The Faculty and all that kind of stuff. And it came out and it was really, really different. It was a really cool concept. And it's like, it's something that, I didn't really think of before I saw it. And then after, you're like, oh, okay. And then, and people kind of reference it, right? Like if something happens, Final Destination, now you're going to find, like, they take pictures on the highway following, like, crazy, out of control cars and, hashtag Final Destination. So it really kind of, it took, right? And so I'm gonna give it to Final Destination as well for just being unique and awesome. All right, we're gonna go on to the setting, and for this, I'm gonna throw to Mia.
Okay, this one for me goes to Wrong Turn because when I was watching it today, I was thinking about how they build sets for haunted houses and how much like detail and stuff goes into them. And I was watching one the other day that I was like, wow, that place literally looks like a movie could have been filmed there. And so when I was watching Wrong Turn today, like the tower was really, there was just so many things to make you feel like it was really authentic. Another Wrong Turn, Final Destination doesn't, like, there's all those details and stuff, but it doesn't make you want to be there. It just feels like everyday normal life, which is why it feels so scary. But I think that it was more, I don't know, I guess interesting of a set to look at. And the woods are just so terrifying. But the places that they actually had to put together, the house and the tower, I think just kind of top the normal setting of Final Destination.
Okay. Catherine?
I'm also gonna go with Wrong Turn just because I have that, like, the woods are terrifying to me. So the everyday setting to me is less scary than being lost and stranded in the woods. So I'm gonna go with that one just because it'll scare me every time.
Cool. I'm going to go with Wrong Turn as well, which supposedly was shot right near my house. And I remember actually when it was being shot, there was talks about it. And so that's not the reason why, but just, it's the woods, and it's a cool setting. It's the sense of helplessness is definitely more prevalent. But the problem is Final Destination, while I like you said, Mia, there's nothing wrong with the locations. It just moves around all over the place, from airports to houses to, to fields and stuff like that, which is cool. But you can like pinpoint something as easily as Wrong Turn, and I like things to be easy, so I'm gonna go with Wrong Turn. All right, so we're gonna go to filmmaking, and for this one, I'm gonna throw to Catherine.
Oof. I'm gonna have to go. Final Destination is just so complex. Like it has so much going on in all the different settings between like, the very beginning with the plane crash to the house that burns down. There's just so much going on. The electricity, the power line coming down. I'm gonna have to go with Final Destination just because the complexity of it. And I feel like there's a lot of work, and not that there's not a lot of work in Wrong Turn and a lot of creativity in that one too, but it's just something that if you think about making the movie while you're watching Final Destination, you just really pay attention to all the complexities of it. So I'm gonna go with that one.
Awesome. Mia.
I'm also going to go with Final Destination because you have to do so much more work when it's set in such like a normal setting. There's not a scary guy after you. It's literally like a Rube Goldberg contraption that kills you, basically. One thing falls onto this, onto this, onto that. And that takes so much work, and I think attention to detail, to really make you feel very scared that there's not necessarily like a I guess death would be a supernatural thing, but there's no, like in a haunted house movie, the ghost is scary, this or that. They don't relate. That's kind of what lacks. But because it's lacking, the way that they shoot it all is what makes it terrifying. And not that, like Catherine said, not that there's not a lot of attention to detail in Wrong Turn, but you can kind of just have a bunch of friends go out into the woods with a camera and have some crazy people and some makeup, and it's going to turn out scary to some degree. You can't do that with this storyline and premise in Final Destination, so I'm going with Final Destination.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think Final Destination was like we were talking about, a unique story, and it had some complexities to the shoot. I mean, it could a lesser filmmaker could have made that film look really hokey, right? And but it ended up working out very well for the series. Well, the series was to come. Yeah, there was nothing wrong with Wrong Turn. I think we all agree on that. It was just a lot more straightforward, and sometimes straightforward just doesn't work on this show, and this is one of those cases. So Final Destination, I went blank there. Final Destination it is. All right, so we're gonna go with acting and characters. I'll start off on this one, and I'm going to say that I'm going to blanket statement and say that there was really, in my opinion, and you may correct me if I'm wrong, blanket statement, both films had good acting. I didn't really notice any weak links in the films. I liked a lot in Final Destination, got wrapped up in it, but at the end of the day, I didn't care if they died. I know it sounds bad, but I didn't really care. I was kind of happy to see like how it was going to play out. And that even goes for the leads. And then in Wrong Turn, I thought I really liked that cast. I really thought that cast kind of came together, and no one really, I didn't think anybody exploded off the screen, but it was just a cast that I was able to wrap my head around for some reason. And what was the lead guy's name? Desmond. You got the DVD cover.
Yeah.
There. What was his name? Desmond. I should know this. I apologize.
It just says her name because she was okay. Wait, I'm gonna read that like tiny font. Desmond Harrington.
That's it. I was gonna say Harrington, but I didn't want to make a fool out of myself. But I thought he was great in it. Like, he was a serious, straight, tough guy. You kind of felt safe with him, but then you didn't. Even Lindy Booth, who the redhead that got, she didn't have a lot of screen time, but she, when she got killed, I was like, oh crap, wow, that was pretty intense. So I like the characters in Wrong Turn. I'm gonna go with them on that, and we're gonna throw to Catherine.
I think, like you said, both films have such strong like casts and characters, like especially for like the early 2000s. Like watching it, you can tell it's an early 2000s film just by just the cast. They're just fantastic. But I think in Wrong Turn, there were definitely some characters that I cared if they died, and other ones that I just really didn't. Like when, I can't remember his name, Scott, I think, when he's running through the woods and they're shooting the arrows at him. That
Yellow
seems kind of
shirt
sad
guy.
for me. Yeah, that's kind of sad for me when he dies. But other than that, I just didn't really care a whole lot when people died in Wrong Turn. It's just kind of like, one of those, I don't want to say background noise slashers, but like I'm not that invested in the characters in it. Whereas I feel like in Final Destination, every character is so different from each other. Like Carter, I think it is, the fear that he has that turns him into this like super mean bully character, and like just how they're all forced off the plane and they're all just so unique to one another. I think they complement each other well. So I'm gonna go to Final Destination on that one.
All right. Mia, settle the tiebreaker.
Well, I'd agree that both movies have a very strong cast. They have, in my opinion, iconic people from the early 2000s. Like you turn Final Destination on, and it's Devon Sawa, which I love him in SLC Punk. And then in Wrong Turn, you have Eliza, however you say her last name, and she's the badass from Bring It On. And so, not that I guess the era has anything to do with the characters, but you just feel like you feel safe watching those actors because you already love them in other movies. So it's hard when you compare them because they both have that same feeling. But Jason, I'm agree with you. I was more invested in rooting for the characters in Wrong Turn. I was really rooting for Eliza and Desmond, and just seeing like their survival together. Like you can just tell that they're tough and hard-ass from the get-go. And in Final Destination, it's like they all have a little bit more of, I guess, a background character to them. But I guess I didn't really like care for them as much whenever they died. I was more like, yeah, let's see how it's gonna go down. And in Wrong Turn, I was like, no, fuck those inbreds up. So I guess I just fell in love with the Wrong Turn characters more. So it's gonna be that for me.
I think they also really like bait you in Final Destination because every death is so creative and unique. You're like, I kind of want to see how this is going to happen. So I could totally see that.
Yeah, well put. That's a very, very good point. You learn early on that this film is going to be special for that, right? So, all right. So scare factor, we're going to start off with you, Mia.
Scare factor. Well, again, neither of these movies really scare me. But when you get down to the core of the ideas, both are very terrifying because one is death and you're not going to control death. And if you are, he's still going to come back and get you. And that's terrifying. But at the same time, it's like when it's your time, it's your time. And when it comes to Wrong Turn, those motherfuckers are creepy. They're scary. They've been doing this a long time. They're well prepared for not being very smart, I guess. They're smart when it comes to like setting traps, and their aim is what is really good. And that, I guess, more so terrifies me because you do have more of a battle where you might be able to kick this guy's ass and win, whereas death, it's just like, oh, you're gonna fucking get it. So I guess to me, I would say Wrong Turn is more scary because of the core thoughts of how you're gonna die.
All right. Well, I was gonna give the tiebreaker this time to Catherine, but there's not going to be a tiebreaker. So I got to go with Wrong Turn. I think the concept in Final Destination can be creepy. but still out of reach in my imagination. Meanwhile, I mean, every summer I somehow end up in the woods for a cottage or something, right? And it could happen. And that's terrifying in concept. I agree. I didn't get scared by either film, but in concept, actually, I guess they're both scary in concept, but in relative terms, Wrong Turn. Catherine?
This is so hard for me because sometimes I'll just be driving in the middle of nowhere and I'm like, what if somebody put like tire spikes out just like randomly in my head? I think of Wrong Turn. I'm like, there could be just barbed wire out here. And I think about it all the time. But I also think about Final Destination all the time. Before like I cross a busy road, I'll think of like the bus scene, or of course, like if I'm going on a plane, like that goes in my head and I have to like focus to like not think about it. So they're both really scary, but I feel like I'm gonna have to go with Wrong Turn because I just can't imagine myself running through the woods away from these guys as they're like laughing and making all those just like non-inhuman sounds, I guess, and just enjoying themselves trying to kill me. Yeah, that's so scary. As they have like bear traps and arrows coming at me, and yeah, that's terrifying. I feel like death will come out of nowhere, whether we realize it or not, whether we like pay attention before it even happens. Like it can be so quick, but when there's some cannibal chasing you through the woods, like you know that there's a cannibal chasing you through the woods, and that's terrifying.
Yeah. Well put. Okay, so this one I think is like in my opinion, we'll see how it plays out because I'm wrong often, but in my opinion, this is a heavy hitters category in the kills. I think both films excel in this to certain extents, and we're gonna start with Catherine.
Can I say like, oh man,
Are you gonna pass? I'll tell you something. There's only been one time where someone said, I'm gonna pass, and guess who it was? She's hiding in the top corner square there. But yeah, Mia passed on one in a show. We got back to her, but you have a pass if you want it.
No, I mean, honestly, I think, can I go with like the plane scene in the very beginning, like his vision, where everyone just dies in that plane crash? Because like
287 people or something like that.
It like blew my mind. Like that is such a detailed, intense, like you saw everyone just die in so many different ways. Like I think there's one person who gets like decapitated by luggage that flies forward or something like that. But there's so much detail and it's so stressful, and the build up to it, with the like the music playing and the little button on the tray, and like it gives you so much anxiety as you're watching it, and then it's just kind of like heart-wrenching to see everyone die. So can I go with that one? Is that
yeah, you don't have to pick one kill. You just got to pick the movie, right? So you're going with Final Destination?
Yep, that plane crash, man.
All right. Okay. Mia.
Okay. Well, I rag on movies for this all the time, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, we've seen people die this way. We've seen people die this way. And Wrong Turn is a movie like that. While they are glorious, I will say when he puts the axe through her face and that part of her head stays and the rest of her body falls, genius. One of the best kills in slashers, in my opinion. However, Final Destination has these freaking Rube Goldberg things where this thing's gonna hit this and then it's gonna make this thing react this way, and it's just so interesting to watch. And also the way they shoot it and write it, they make you think one thing's gonna make the person die that way. So you're constantly second guessing while you're watching the death. You're like, are they gonna die from that? Oh, I bet it's gonna be this thing. And it just totally comes out of left field, and you can never figure out exactly how they're gonna die until it happens.
Yeah.
The train. Yep.
Yeah, it's just genius. And now we have a whole franchise of genius, amazing deaths. So I'm giving it to Final Destination.
Okay, so maybe it wasn't as big of a category as I thought. Again, I'm wrong, but I do think Wrong Turn did an amazing job at killing people and doing them good. It was Stan Winston's company, the effects helm, and it showed that they wanted to go the brutal, route, which I really, really love. But yeah, I gotta say Final Destination as well, because as we've talked about, with the uniqueness, and Mia, you really illustrated it well with how a lot of red herrings, and like how it was finally going to end up, and in the end it ended up usually satisfying, if if you enjoy death scenes. And yeah, kind of like what you were saying, Catherine, like when you're, that airplane scene, that death scene when they're showing, it kind of reminds me of a movie that came out later, but Death Proof by Quentin Tarantino, when he shows the car crash like 4 different times to show all 4 death scenes. And obviously I think that was done better, but yeah, it was and I mean, everybody's kind of got a deep, dark fear of flying. I mean, I think some people are better at it than others, but that scenario definitely is something that haunts a lot of people. So yeah, we'll go with Final Destination. But yeah, I thought Wrong Turn was going to get a little more love, but it didn't.
Well, because Wrong Turn, both of these were iconic when they came out, but when I was watching it earlier today with David, he was like, you don't understand, like when this movie came out, people that weren't even horror fans like wanted to see this movie. Everybody was talking about it because it was so brutal and so scary. So
cool. All right, Antagonist. This one's a little tricky. Pardon me. I'll start it off. I'm gonna break it down here. What is the antagonist in Final Destination? It's death. And how do you get more iconic than that? How do you pick someone over death? I think I did this on another episode where the devil was the killer, and I suggested that you really can't top the devil when it comes to antagonists. But in Wrong Turn, they were freaky, and especially in the first one, they got a lot more cartoony as the series went on. But in the first one, it was freaky when when they're trapped under the bed, and you're seeing the brutality of these characters, and it's your worst nightmare, being kind of captive and trapped, and having it's one thing when it's a person and you feel that there's some sort of reasoning that can be had, but when you see it's like a mongoloid kind of monster, it's a lot more freaky. So I'm very, very different, but I'm gonna give it the Wrong Turn. Mia.
I think that death is the antagonist in both movies. One just is in the form of cannibalistic, inbred, crazy people, because no matter what, they're going to kill you. They are death. And when you compare it that way, it's easier to go with Wrong Turn, which I'm going to go with Wrong Turn for that reason, because the way that they die in Final Destination is just pure fate, freak accidents, and something like that happens every day. And death is something, we're all going to die. It's all something that we have to face regardless. So it's a little less scary because it's something that we have to face no matter what. We don't usually have to face cannibalistic, inbred, crazy people. So that is 1,000 times more terrifying. So I'm going to go with Wrong Turn for sure.
Okay. Catherine?
Final Destination's scary, but I think it's scarier because like they got off the plane and they knew that death was coming for them. So I don't think they wouldn't have been scared if they didn't know that death was coming. They would have just died eventually. But it's because they figured it out that death was so scary. So that one, I mean, yeah, death is a little scary, just overall in general, but
little.
Unless I knew that it was going to creep up on me in some weird like mousetrap game kind of way, like I wouldn't be that scared 24/7. But it doesn't matter what time of day, night, what I'm doing, it doesn't matter. If a crazy cannibal is going to run at me, I'm going to be terrified. So I'm going to go with Wrong Turn.
All right. I mean, I think in this case, props go out to Final Destination, but it's so hard to kind of relate to that exact scenario. So maybe,
Well,
maybe
and I mean, Tony Todd did a pretty good job of selling it and making it
Mhm.
sound creepy. So, I mean, he does a good job at everything,
I
but
was
he
gonna say, yeah.
drove it home.
It's
No,
a beast.
that's true. All right, so we're on to the last category already. We're flying, and I gotta say, I mean,
Is that
I
a
don't.
pun? We're
Yeah.
flying. Is that a pun?
No. You know how many puns, and they're unintentional, I throw out in this show. I don't know. I guess maybe that's just like a cheesy implanted characteristic in my vocabulary. Okay. So my point is this is the last category, and I really don't know who's gonna win. It's been right around the board. I haven't done any calculations, so I'm really, really interested. This might be one of the closer ones. So we're gonna start with Mia. Which film had a better ending?
I forgot this was one of the questions on this show. I have to debate it a little bit in my brain.
Talk it out.
Out loud. Yeah.
We're here for you.
I guess Wrong Turn, satisfying. I literally watched this today and I'm trying to figure out what happens. They get away, don't they? They totally get away. I know they do. Okay, the officer shot in the eye. Something happens. Yes, they burn the place to the ground. On Final Destination, he gets hit by a bus in Paris. I would not be traveling to Paris after all that goes down. That's just
No,
like
he misses-
6 months later, they're already on a plane to Paris. Like,
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's like, forget about
I'm
it.
like there was 39 days after the plane crash before death started coming after them, because it says it's 39 days whenever they go to the whatever, the viewing ceremony service thing that they have in Memorum. So I guess like if death gave me over a month and like kept me on hold, I would not be just like Clear goes into the freaking loony bin as we see in the next one. But so that's not really satisfying to me, because I just feel like they just went through all of this crazy shit and now they think it's over. Like they just think it's over, even though clearly it's not. And then especially after that, the bus and the sign and killing them, and then you're just left like, okay, what's going to happen now? Which I'm sure is like obviously for a sequel thing, but it just was kind of like, I don't know, it kind of just pisses me off more than it gives me any like satisfaction. And in Wrong Turn, it gives me satisfaction because it was like we just fought for like a whole like day and a half, and that final battle, like when they're like both trying to kick ass and they keep coming back to life, and then finally he is like, I got one shot left, and he shoots the freaking gas tank, and it's like, I'm like, yeah, I prefer that, so I'm going with Wrong Turn.
All right. So I'm going to go next because I want to give Catherine the tiebreaker to end the show. I'm going to go with Final Destination. And it's not that I had anything wrong. There was anything wrong with Wrong Turn. Excuse me. I thought it ended the way it should, and gave you kind of satisfaction. And but with Final Destination, I mean, did you ever hear about the second ending that or the original ending, and then it got switched where what's her face, Clear, had a baby, and and they actually show Sawa like basically dying in the driveway there, like getting electrocuted and burned and stuff like that. And there's actually footage of it. Anyways, that's not part of this question, but you should
Probably
check it
on
out.
the DVD.
And okay, so the reason why I'm picking it is I just thought it was really, really, I don't know, I thought it was pretty funny when that final, I forgot his name, the last kill of the movie, but like
Harder.
yeah, the 180 sign, like just the fact that it was a 180 sign that kind of came in and took him out, and just segued right into the sequels, which you knew you were gonna get anyway. I thought that was kind of funny, and I'm gonna go with Final Destination on that one. All right, Catherine, this is it. This is why they pay you all the big bucks. You get to determine.
Final Destination, I feel like that ending, I agree, it pissed me off a little bit because like just why are you going to Paris? Like, how could they do that? Honestly, I felt a little betrayed, the fact that they just got on a plane after all that, like kind of a slap in the face to everyone else who died in the plane crash. But also, I just the death, I feel like he would have known that that sign was going to come back after death is coming at you all that time. And then with the train incident, how he got yanked out of the car last second, like, how did you not know that that sign was going to come back?
Well,
So
wait,
feel like
I will say this. Wait, I will interrupt you for 1 second. I will say this. They thought that they beat it, right? They didn't just assume that, okay, well, it just passed by. They thought they beat it by skipping over and, like skipping over the death. So in a way, they kind of maybe thought they did something, even though they didn't. But anyways.
what's his name? The main character, Devon Sawa's character.
Alex.
Yeah, Alex was trying to convince them that it wasn't over at the last second, and he was trying to go back to the hotel room. So they were all riled up again about, is death coming or is death not coming? So I don't know. Also, just I feel like it was such a quick, like, we're okay after all of our close friends just died horribly brutal deaths. Like, we're just fine and gonna go vacation in Paris. I don't know. That one, it's all right. But Wrong Turn, I feel like the very end when that police officer is there and one of the cannibals comes up and kills him at the last second, that one is more inviting of a sequel to me because it looks like they killed some of them, but then you find out there's even more. And the idea that there's more than just those like 3 or 4 cannibals that they were like battling throughout the whole movie is really scary to me. So, and I just love the Wrong Turn sequels. I like the sequels to me are way better than the first one. So that invitation for a sequel at the end of that one is more satisfying to me than like what felt kind of like a forced transition into a sequel in Final Destination.
All right.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with Wrong Turn.
Yeah, I pretty much picked up on that one. Yeah, like I mean, it is a little bit of lazy writing on the Final Destination part, right? You put a title card 6 months later, so it looks like it healed wounds, right? I get that. Yeah, I mean, and definitely, I think with Wrong Turn, it was more just a straightforward, but also kind of catchy ending. But I'm not going to change my vote because you're not allowed to. So the votes are in. All right. So we're back with a winner from our heavy hitting 2000s horror films. It was really, really close, and I like that. So it was pretty cool. And it was unlike other matchups where, you sometimes get someone who loves a film and their column of points are like, really towards that one, and then someone else with the other film. This one was split. So Catherine was 4-4 in her categories. I was 4-4 in my categories. Mia was the tiebreaker, 5-3 in her categories, and the winner with a 13-11 score, Wrong Turn.
Yay!
I did that.
Wore the right t-shirt.
Yes, which is a really cool shirt that I've never seen before, so that's awesome.
Yeah, what company did that?
I found it on Etsy. I looked up Wrong Turn shirt and it came up and I was like, boop, buy that.
Right on.
So congratulations to Wrong Turn for the big win. And I also want to thank Mia for participating once again. You were awesome.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Catherine for who I hope is going to be a regular should I continue this show. Thanks for being on.
Continue.
Awesome. Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. I really didn't know which one was going to win, and I loved how it was so close. So I couldn't decide it, so I'm glad you helped me. And any final words, Mia?
I was trying to come up with something witty, but
Oh no, you don't have to be witty. You just be sweet.
not right now. No, but that would have been good if
It would have.
witty.
Catherine's got some time to think of something witty while we're struggling with getting through.
No.
No, pressure's on. Catherine, anything you'd like to
So
say?
that's when I go blank, is when you tell me to be witty. There's nothing.
Yeah,
Just crickets.
it's very seldom someone says, okay, be witty, but anyways. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you soon. Thank you everybody for watching Horror Face Off.
Bye.
Bye.